I really loved the character of Guinevere, and I really felt honoured to play that role. So that gave me a lot of kind of weight on my shoulders. I really love that character, and when you love a character like that, it already adds so much complexity because you're digging so much deeper, and it's sentimental to you as well, you know, to such a degree. So yeah, I really felt like there was a lot of layers to that in trying to create this world, trying to find a version of me within Guinevere and still have Guinevere be her own person. There might have been moments or beats that didn't necessarily feel right, but I had to figure out ways to make them feel right for Guinevere. And also just, we were in such cold weather. So even in that regard, like...
Where did you shoot?
In Wales, Bristol and Wales. And it was really cold. And even when you're inside, it's cold, you know? So yeah, that added a whole nother layer. I also injured my back when I was doing that. And so obviously injury being like, my mind was telling my muscles like to not do the things they should have been able to do, right? It wasn't like I didn't actually rip my muscle or anything like that. But what it meant was I'm meant to be doing horse riding. I'm meant to be, you know, walking actively in cold weather where your body's already, you know. So all of those different things just added a lot to that role.
Did you train horse riding before, or you just trained for production?
Listen, you know what? I had on my thing, I don't think I had horse riding on my spotlight. And when I got there and I got the job, they were acting like I'd said I had done horse riding for years. And I was like, wait, I've done horse riding before, but it wasn't on my spotlight. Like I told them, yeah, I've done it before, so I'm comfortable around horses. I did it a few times when I was younger, but not like constant training. Somebody got things confused, and a rumor began that I actually was really good at horse riding. I was not. So I definitely had training when I started. They had wonderful teams that were there kind of teaching us how to get good at horse riding. And I also took horse riding up as well in between periods I wasn't working. So on the Winter King, we had an amazing intimacy coordinator, quite a few actually. And we had conversations with the director, and then we also had conversations of like what they saw for the mood or how they saw it going, what they wanted to represent from it. And then we had sessions with our intimacy coordinators. I had a really great relationship with mine, and we kind of had back and forth about what we wanted to achieve from the scene and where my limits were and how I wanted them to be communicated and whether we need words to communicate so that it feels more comfortable. Obviously in the Winter King, that was Ian's incredible, so he just always made me feel really, really comfortable. So if you can get people like that are just really considerate of you as their scene partner and vice versa, it's perfect because then you have a little trust going on.
So what was the hardest part of that role?
So because going back to the horses, that was a really difficult part. I'd never had to act whilst trying to maneuver a living being. I'm not the best at doing that sort of thing because I also would rather be more passive with animals. and you have to be really stern with them, and you really have to build it up. But then also delivering lines, there was like so many different elements. Delivering lines whilst trying to maneuver horses, that it's the mud is like you're stepping all over it, the horse is stepping on your foot, you know, a horse is nipping at my clothes, and I'm like, will I die? You know, so there was a lot of things, and it's in the middle of winter, it's freezing cold, my jaw is starting to shut, and my lines aren't coming out clearly because it's so cold. So there was just trying to maneuver all these different things at one time was probably one of the most difficult things I've done, and I've been in a lot of odd situations for roles, but that was just the amount of things there were. But on top of that, what I found difficult but really enjoyed was trying to take the elements of Guinevere that I learned about her in the books of how cold she was, but still make her a lovable character that people wanted to see like thrive and achieve things and had a reason to root for. And it's so much easier to just play a cold character. And that was, you know, really difficult to try and make sure that I wasn't playing her too cold or too warm and getting that balance just right. And I think when you understand why somebody might have these negative attributes, or why somebody might being cold or be so desperate for power or deemed so desperate for power, it's so much easier to like have tenderness and warmth for them because you start to understand them as a three-dimensional character and you humanize them, you know, and they're not just evil, you know. So we did all that. We did all the psychological background and created visuals for what we think happened to her. And yeah, that really helped. And I kept that with me. I had a whole booklet of stuff.
All right. And when they decided to close the Winter King, what was it? How did it feel?
Close as in like wrap it, or as in not go into season 2?
Not going to season 2.
I had prepared myself that it might not happen. And I'd been kind of going through like the benefits if it doesn't happen and the negatives, and allowing myself to weigh both up and go, okay, but if it doesn't happen, then these are the positive things. And if it does happen, these are the positive things. And I'd done that prep, but when it did happen, I was obviously really devastated. I loved working with that team. They were some of the most incredible people I've ever worked with. The friendships that we had, how easy everybody was to work with, like being able to laugh on set when it was so cold and just people were so exhausted, people were sick, you know, and be able to still enjoy yourself. And I just loved Guinevere. It meant a lot to me, especially being a Black person in that role. Like I never could have imagined that I would have been able to play that. Because I just growing up, like I always thought that at that time, like Black people didn't exist in those times, like in those like environments of the British kingdoms, like that wasn't a thing, you know, in the 5th century Britain. And I always loved this thing. The idea of being able to dress up and do that would always be exciting, but I never thought that I'd be able to do that. And so then being a Black mixed race person, being offered that role just felt so special. I thought, wow, like I'm really gonna be able to play this character that like I resonate with so many different elements of who they are and how they're seen by other people. And I get to allow like other people that look like me or even just like can see themselves from who I am as an individual, can see that on screen and be like, oh, we can do this. And that was really important to me. And whilst not everybody's gonna look at me, 100% everybody's gonna look at me, not every POC person's gonna look at me and see themselves in me, but there are gonna be some individuals that do, and that made it so special. So for that reason, hearing the news was sad. And also, I don't know if you've seen any of the reviews for Winter King, but a lot of the reviews for Winter King spoke heavily about the casting and race. And so that kind of actually reinforced like how happy I was to be able to do that, because we clearly need it. People are still commenting on it. So we clearly need this. And I was just so grateful to be a part of something with the actors that I got to work alongside and to play that character. So not being able to do it again, absolutely 100% devastating. I really, really loved working with Iain De Caestecker on The Winter King, because I just think he really took care of people on set. I think I had the most like intimate scenes I've ever done. We were working a lot. It was cold, as I've mentioned 1,000 times. But he just really also showed like how important it is to be a leader and look after your team. Like there's lots of small things that he did to make sure everybody thought they were being helped by him, you know? And I think it's really, really easy to, people love to kind of make you this star when you're the lead. And it's really easy to just be like, yes, thank you this, thank you that. And he never did that. He always tried to do everything to make people feel comfortable. And it made working with him really easy, I think, for everybody. I think everybody would say the same thing, work with him. So yeah, and he's always been super helpful since as well. So he's been my favorite person to work with as an actor.